Well, g'day again. In the first video, talked about why we should give, what the Bible says about that. And then secondly, talked about, well, how much should I give? And in this video, I want to talk about who we should give to. Now, obviously all of our giving is ultimately a gift given to God, but the Bible actually highlights a few key people groups that Christians should actually can and should give to. Okay? And so the first is the local church making disciples locally. Now, the local church has a really high priority in God's purposes. It's the base for our mission here in Chester Hill and beyond. It's actually the context when you and your family and your kids and your spouse and brothers and sisters, you come along and you're nurtured in your faith. And just like in Israel, they need to set apart the Levites. We need to set apart some people also who will lead and teach and organise our church family and our mission. You can see Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians 9. You can look that up later if you want. I love this quote. John Piper, who's a preacher in America, when he was asked about giving to his local church, he said this. He said, well, I think it's a helpful rule of thumb to say that considering that this is your family of believers with its own set of needs and that you benefit from the church and give your life to it, starting with a tithe here is a good idea. And from there you can give more here and more elsewhere. I love that because it's a reminder that giving to the local church, it isn't a selfish giving. It's about fulfilling our first responsibility to be making disciples locally. A second group the Bible talks about that Christians should give to is missionaries and other church partners. So those who are making disciples beyond us here in Chester Hill. So in places like in the Bible, in Philippians chapter 4, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, it actually shows that there's rich partnerships between churches and those that churches actually sent out. Now here at Chester Hill for us, we partner with Kelly Langdragon in France. So we try to give generously to her. We partner with sometimes with the ministry, the Summit ministry here, and with pioneers who are doing gospel work right across the world. And from time to time there's also opportunities in there to give personally to people like student ministers as we send them out to take the gospel elsewhere. Now the third kind of category or group of people that the Bible encourages us to give to is the Christian poor and others who are in need. So you can look these passages up later, but just to give you an idea, 1 Corinthians 16, James chapter 2, 14 to 17, and Galatians 6 talks about this as well. There is a clear responsibility for Christians to care for the poor in the church, and also not just in the church, but in our community as well. Now we have a lot of poor people in our community. We have some poor people in our church, and that's why you might hear us encouraging people to support ministries like Compassion Australia and at other times raising money for those that are particularly in need in our church and in our community. Thanks.